Do, 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 do. You do not beg the sun for mercy. Muad'Dib's travail from the Stilgar commentary. Welcome to Reading Dune, a podcast where we read Dune by Frank Herbert and talk about it. If you're a Fremen or a first-time reader, this podcast is for you. My name is Caleb Pauls.
And I'm Evan Diaz.
And together, we're going to read some Dune Messiah.
Yeah, we are.
Woo! All right. So I saw there in a little bit that you have your Dune, you have your little oh my gosh, what's it called? The worm. You have your emotional support worm.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this chapter you needed it?
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on.
I mean, it wouldn't be Dune without getting a little weird.
Yeah.
So, okay, first off, oh, yeah, we have a form submission from the website.
Ooh.
So of course, there's lots of ways to talk to us. Twitter at Reading Dune, email readingdune@gmail.com, or you can go to the website, which is readingdune.com, and you put it in there, and you'll like this. This is from Mr. Mystery Man.
What?
Yeah.
Mr. Mystery Man?
He says, hi, just wanted to say, please don't ever stop doing these. I love your interpretations on this series so much. He says, by far, the best conversation in the entire book is the Fremen talking to Thufir Hawat. Good day. Stay spicy.
Mystery. Does it say Mr. Mystery Man?
Yeah, that's what he wrote in his name, Mr. Mystery Man. So, cool. Mr. Mystery Man, if you've gotten this far listening, I also think that chapter with Thufir Hawat was underrated. I did not expect it to be that funny when we did it. But man, we get lots of comments about that chapter. It might be my favorite chapter that we've done on Reading Dune ever because it was hilarious.
Dang.
All right. So let's start with this quote. It's a small one.
Is it the smallest one?
It may be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words.
It might be the smallest one.
You do not beg the sun for mercy. What do you think Paul was going through when he said this statement? He's talking to Stilgar. It's in the Stilgar commentary.
Right.
He's travailing. He's kind of pissed off.
I think that weird vibe of like him kind of forgetting that he's not actually a god.
Yeah.
And so having that, like, oh, you wouldn't ask the sun for mercy. Why would you ask me for mercy? Like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the vibe that I got from it. But
okay. Yeah. I feel like as we'll get over, like, again, this is speculation. I have no real clue. But as we go in this chapter, there's certain things that are going to happen to Paul that he's trying to stop, but just like the sun from rising, he can't stop it. So even all of this power, the sun will still beat down on you.
Jeez.
In the noonday sun. So, yeah. On that note,
that's ouchy.
Steven on YouTube, he says, first live show, ready to get weird, Steven.
What's up, Steven?
Thanks for coming. Thanks for being live with us. All right. You ready to dive into this chapter?
Let's do it.
Okay. So this is a Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam chapter.
Yeah.
Call back all the way from chapter 1
Salty
of
grandma.
Dune. Yeah,
Salty grandma. Let's go.
the old witch. So she's in her dungeon still. And so the Fremen guards have now come and they've come to escort her. She's captive to have an audience with Emperor Muad'Dib.
Right, which she was captured like 10 chapters ago.
Right, like
right?
She was on the Highliner that brought
Yeah.
Edric.
Right.
Right.
Blub,
And it
blub,
was
blub.
and it was a complete trap. The Fremen guards just grabbed her and said, You can't be here, so you're now captive.
Yeah.
So she's like, crap. So she walks down the dusty prison hallways and she remembers the first time she tested this child, this Quizrock Hatterack. He was a deep one. Right, we're thinking about that first time where he puts his hand in the box and he recounts, fears the mind killer and everything is burning and she's just waiting. And then she thinks about how Jessica played her role in all of this. So, of course, she focuses all of the blame on Jessica. None of this is her fault.
Right. Okay. I already have a question.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we've talked about it at all.
Okay.
But, or maybe we did and I forgot. That's like very, very like likely that that's what happened. But anyway, my question is, where's Jessica?
Dun, dun, dun. Good question.
Because we've been talking about her and I don't know where she is.
I don't think this is necessarily a spoiler, so I can say it. She's on Caladan.
Oh, okay.
Did
they say that at some point?
I think at the very beginning, yeah. It's probably, I think it was in Bronzo's like thing.
Oh, okay.
Like, she's on Caladan and she refuses to make Caladan one of the stops on the pilgrimage. Like, she's like, no, the pilgrims can't come here. And of course they all want to. We want to go to Muad'Dib's homeworld and see the waters,
Right.
And she's like, no, I'm not here for that fan service. Like, let's not do it.
The fan service.
So yeah, she's on Caladan.
Just like living her best life.
Yeah, she's
getting mani-pedis, like hanging out.
She's also with somebody. This isn't really a spoiler, I guess, either. But there's a certain character that's been missing throughout this book. One of the main Atreides people.
Oh, Gurney.
Yeah. You remember that special moment they had in the cave?
Yes.
Right? When the ways change conversation, where we meet Gurney, he shows up, he sees like Batman Muad'Dib, and then like goes that, and then afterwards he like plays a song for Jessica, and it got really tender after he tried to kill her.
Right.
Yeah. They're together on Caladan.
Cute. Okay. Good to know.
Yep. So she obviously wants nothing to do with any of this.
Right.
She's like pretty much abandoned her children at this point, which, to be honest, Aaliyah needs help, so it's kind of messed up on her now.
Right.
If anybody needs help, Aaliyah definitely needs help from mom. What's going on in her life, but I don't know if she'd ever listen. She's at that weird, awkward stage in adolescence. But yeah, so Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam blames all of Jessica. She assigns no blame to the Bene Gesserit, by the way.
Why would Jessica. They be to blame?
Right, just Jessica, because they were one generation away from having the perfect thing, and Jessica messed it up. So the guards herd her around the corner into another, what seems like endless vaulted passage. Now there's triangle windows, there's tiles on the floor that are a deep blue, so she's out of the dungeons. She's walking through the keep. As they walk through the passages, the Reverend Mother sees other Fremen, and then she starts to get angry at Paul. Like, she's just walking, just brooding this whole time. So far, she's been angry at Jessica. Now she's angry at Paul. How could he deny the jewels of posterity within his loins? I just love that line. A Quizwatch Hatterack. Yes, born out of time, true, but real as his abomination of a sister.
She's so salty
And
about Aaliyah.
and I wonder how old Reverend Mother is at this time. She's got to be okay. So this is a fun little fact. I guess not a spoiler either. So the spice is what the Reverend Mothers take to
Yeah.
become Reverend Mothers,
Right.
right? They have access to all of those gene memories. So they're definitely addicted, which is why they need it. And
Right.
spice prolongs life.
Right.
So she could be anywhere from the 250s to 300 years old.
Really?
Yeah, Thomas Wright says she's 85 here on YouTube. So yeah, somewhere in that range.
85 to 400, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there. She's old. She's been around a while. She was the Emperor's truthsayer. And she's pissed at the Atreides children. Oh, then she's talking about Aaliyah. She says, a wild Reverend Mother spawned without Bene Gesserit inhibitions. No loyalty towards her own development of genes. And she shared her brother's powers, no doubt. And probably more. They kept walking. Passage after passage. Would these passages ever end? She thinks. The size itself of the citadel begins to oppress her.
Right.
The pure size of this place reeked of terrifying physical power. No planet, no civilization in all human history had ever seen such man-made immensities.
I underline that.
Right, which calls back to like the thought that Paul was having about Genghis Khan and Hitler and like their size of their empires.
Right.
How like what Paul has done is put a stamp on human history. This is the biggest it's ever been right now.
Right.
A dozen ancient cities could be hidden in these walls.
You know what it made me think of just now, like reading through it again?
Yeah.
This is niche. This is a very niche reference. So
Oh,
I'm
no.
sorry.
Here we go.
But have you read The Magician's Nephew, the first Chronicles of Narnia book?
I have, yeah.
So they go into like Jada, like the White Witch's world where they like find her.
Uh-huh.
And Charn is like the country that like that they're in, that it's just like a one palace that's like the size of a
planet
country, you know, like it's just this one huge palace, and they're like in room after room, and all the rooms just get bigger and bigger. That's what it just reminded me of.
I think that's a good illusion of what Paul is going for.
Yeah.
Right? Terrifying physical power.
Right.
Andrew Floyd, who is also at the airport about to go to San Francisco for work. Hey, Andrew, thanks for joining. He says, he says this is the basilica of the true universal faith. Everybody in the empire comes here to worship. All right, so they pass an oval door with winking lights, and it was a Ixian pneumatic transport orifice.
Ooh.
Which basically means it's a faster way of getting around than walking. Yet they forced her to walk this entire way. So she saw like an elevator and was like, wait, I could have used one of those?
Yeah, there was like there's a little scooter I could have been on. Like
this whole time you're making me walk? And the answer why they made her walk finally clicked. This oppressive walk was meant to prepare her for the audience with the emperor. Then it clicked. Again, Paul wanted something from her. He was preparing her psychologically for this conversation. The Reverend Mother concealed a feeling of elation. Now she had a lever to pull in this game, which means she still held some power in this relationship. And with the right leverage, a finger's touch could topple a civilization. The Reverend Mother reminded herself of Saitel's assessment, right? Saitel said this probably numerous times. When a creature has developed into one thing, he would rather choose death than change into his opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what everyone's looking for. This thing. How do we get Paul to choose death? The passage slowly became bigger, subtly though. Ahead of her finally loomed double doors centered on the far wall. The doorway stood 80 meters high, half that in width. So we're American, so we don't know what meters are. So I did some math. It's about 262 feet tall, which
Yeah.
again I can't grasp. It's about 18 stories.
Okay.
And so the doors itself are 18 stories tall.
Jeez.
To show you immensity, scale, like physical power being held.
Just the doors.
Just the doors.
Yeah.
As she approached with her escort, the doors swung inward on their own. They entered the grand reception hall of Emperor Paul Atreides, Muad'Dib, before whom all people are dwarfed. Now, this room, the doors were big. This room was huge.
Right.
A whole citadel of any ruler in human history could fit inside this one room. Trusses supporting beams, a domed ceiling, everything spoke of pure engineering genius.
Right.
And without seeming to do so, the hall grew smaller at the far end, which dwarfed Paul and the throne centered on the dais. So it's like,
wait. It's okay.
all right, so like the room the room gets smaller as you approach Paul to make Paul look bigger.
Right, because it's like you walk into this gigantic room and you get used to the room being gigantic, but then it like subtly becomes smaller so that when you see Paul, he looks gigantic.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That was confusing. I had to like make sure we were saying the right thing.
Yeah. So yeah, as the room is so big, but you don't notice it getting smaller. It just looks like Paul is that big from far away.
Right.
And the colors, of course, are crazy. There's the pure green of the Emerald Throne that invoked Fremen mysticism.
Right. As one piece of emerald.
One piece of stone carved that is the throne.
Nuts. Actually crazy.
Now, green in Fremen culture, pop quiz, green in Fremen culture means what?
Morning.
Yeah. What else is green with Paul?
The Atreides color?
Yeah. So there's this symbol of like Fremen mourning and Atreides succession there that I want the audience to like kind of see.
Yeah.
And we've been noting how the Fremen are basically completely different.
Right.
Behind the throne were draperies of burnt orange and gold. What do you think those mean?
It's not money because the gold we immediately think of money, but it's like I don't know.
What's the planet is called?
Oh yeah, I mean just like like the desert and the Fremenish ways, right?
What's in the desert that's really orange and
the spice.
addictive? Yeah.
Yeah. That's what
Yeah. Right. So behind you have this green throne. Behind that you have orange like draperies to represent the spice and the wealth that Dune had to offer.
Right.
Again, it's the only place in the universe you can get this stuff. The time it took to walk to this place it was starting to have its effect on the Reverend Mother. You might start the long march towards the throne with human dignity, but you end the march as a gnat. In the center on the throne was Paul, glittering with the effect of the shield on him, right? Which, again, I think is like just another display of power. Also, how shields attract worms and like you don't use them, but here he is using them.
It's another display of non-Fremenness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaliyah, the abomination, stood 2 steps below Paul on the left, Stilgar 1 step below Aaliyah, and on the right, on the very bottom, stood the flesh of Duncan, Idaho. The guard stopped her 10 paces from the foot of the dais. The Reverend Mother noticed there was somebody absent. There were 2 people absent. Chani wasn't there, and Irulan was not there.
Yeah.
Paul nodded to her silently, measuring her. So we have this awkward silence as they're both not talking. So immediately, the Reverend Mother decides to take the offensive, going, "So the great Paul Atreides goes out of his way to see the one he banished." Paul smiles, knowing that she knew that he needed something from her. That knowledge had been inevitable.
Right.
Her being a Bene Gesserit with Reverend Mother powers, not to mention she did not rise to her station, right? The Emperor's truthsayer, without being the very best at all of the Bene Gesserit cunning sneakiness.
Right.
Like she knows what's up. So Paul just stares at her, says, "Shall we dispense with the fencing?" Like,
can we just cut the shit? Can we just...
Let's just go straight to the point.
Yeah.
So the Reverend Mother responds, "Name the thing you want." Stilgar stirred. He did not like the way this woman talked to Paul. Paul sees this. "Stilgar wants me to send you away." The Reverend Mother says, "Not kill me. I would have expected something more direct from a Fremen Naib." Like, way to just throw shade at the man.
Yeah.
You are half the man you once were. Oof. Gaius Helen Mohiam continues, saying, "Let's dispense with this diplomacy as well. Was it really necessary to have me walk all that distance? I'm an old woman." Paul responds saying,
"Shut up, Grandma."
Paul responds saying he wanted her to see all of this, to experience that walk. So that way she'll appreciate his forgiving nature towards her. She, of course, gets offended by this and asks again, "So, what does you want from me?" Aaliyah glances at her brother. She looks at Paul and then to the orange curtains behind them, and then back at Paul. She knew why Paul was doing this, but she didn't like it. Call this feeling wild prophecy, whatever that she was feeling, but Aaliyah did not want to be anywhere near this bargaining. Just to put the Reverend Mother in her place once again, Paul said, "You must be careful how you speak to me, old woman." The Reverend Mother thinks to herself about that moment, that first moment they met. The hand, the box, the pain. She wonders if she made the right decision in that moment. And she wondered if she would make the same decision here and now. So, Evan, let's go all the way back to chapter 1 in Dune, the box.
Ready.
What decision did she make there?
To not kill Paul.
Yeah.
She decided that he was human, right? That was the point of the Gomjabar test.
Yeah. In that, and she could have killed him right then and there, and like
roll credits.
Right.
Directed by Denis Villeneuve.
Taking Jessica, had her get pregnant one more time, take her off planet, continue the whole line. Like, of course, Paul was already not supposed to happen. There's a bunch of different things. So she made a split decision not to kill him. And now that decision is now wrecked the entire universe. And so she's like, will I decide again to let him live? Whatever this bargaining may have. "It was a long walk," Paul said, "and I can see that you're tired. We will retire to my private chamber behind the throne. You may sit there." Then he gave the hand signal to Stilgar. Stilgar and the steely eyed Duncan/Hate took the Reverend Mother and helped her up the steps. They followed Paul through the passage hidden behind the giant dune-covered drapes. It clicked to the Reverend Mother why Paul needed the big show. The show wasn't for her. It was to keep appearances with the guards and the lackeys and the bureaucracy.
Right.
And there's this tension now between, like, Paul doesn't really give any craps about what he's the emperor, he can do what he wants, but the whole Imperium only works if everyone believes that he is a god, that
right.
he is capable of being emperor. So there's all this show. The Reverend Mother, as they're walking through, can feel an eerie presence behind her, something spooky. She looked back to see the abomination, Aaliyah following behind with a menacing stare. The Reverend Mother shuddered to herself as she turned back to look forwards. So at the very end of this little like tunnel here, there's a private chamber at this end of the passage that kind of looked like an old Fremen living room from the old Sietch days, right? Cave-like, but there was orange hangings on the walls instead of cushions on the ground, though. We had full couches, right? With the softest cushions you could imagine. We're like elevated Fremen here.
Fancy.
Yeah. And the room gave a slight melange smell. And you could see tall crystal pitchers of water all around the tables.
Which that shows more wealth than everything else.
Right.
On Arrakis.
Paul nods to the water. Like, do you want some? She's like, no. In a low voice, Paul said, I wish to bargain with you for the life of my beloved. Bum, bum, bum. What did you think when he said that?
I was like, wait, what?
Right.
What? What's happening? Why is he bargaining with her about Chani? Like, obviously it's Chani. There's no one else.
Yeah.
You know? But
because in the last chapter, he has the premonition of the feeling without her. So he's getting a sense that she's going to die somehow. So now he's trying to stop it. And so he's like, all right, if I can stop the Bene Gesserit from trying to harm her, we'll be okay.
Right.
Stilgar clears his throat. Aaliyah has her fingers on the handle of her crysknife hung around her neck. And Hate was just standing stoically at the door. And his steely eyes looked to the air right above the Reverend Mother's head. He's just kind of like just standing there aloof.
Right.
The Reverend Mother asks if Paul has had a vision of somehow she being a part of Chani's death, which I think is a fair question. But the Reverend Mother was keeping her attention on the Gola, who was just weird. She felt even threatened by the presence of the Gola, since technically he's a tool of the conspiracy. Like, him even being in the room is a little awkward now.
Right.
Paul avoids her question, only saying, I know what it is you want from me. She looks down at her feet and then slowly raises her gaze to meet Paul. She stares at him with an angry glare. And I imagine that she's sitting, but I don't think Paul is sitting yet. He's kind of like standing over her.
Yeah.
With, again, a position of power.
Right.
She glares angrily and says, what coin do you offer? Paul says that the Bene Gesserit can have his seed, but not his person. Which means he'll be a sperm donor.
Right.
He'll give his seed, his genes to the Bene Gesserit. They can do what they want. And that Irulan is the person they're supposed to use. And she will be banished and artificially inseminated with his sperm.
Right.
This pisses the Reverend Mother off.
Yeah.
You dare. Stilgar takes a step forward. Lagola just smiles. Again, I don't know where he's looking at this point.
He's just looking like nowhere. Right above her head, just like
just a small smile. And Aaliyah is now staring at Hate because that's weird. What is he smiling at? I'm confused. What's happening? I feel like there's like this subconscious programming happening in his mind that none of us know about, and he's just awkward. Which is dangerous. Like, what's he thinking about?
Right.
Paul says that everything the Sisterhood forbid is now in the past. Right? They forbid artificial insemination and all this other stuff, right? All the genetic manipulation, like physically manipulating genes. They'll manipulate people all they want to make babies, but the how the genes get sliced together, they don't mess with.
Mm-hmm.
And they can have, the Bene Gesserit can have his seed for their plans, whatever that may be. Heck, Irulan can have the child, but no child of Irulan will sit on his throne.
Yeah.
So again, the Reverend Mother asks, okay, fine. Who will bear the imperial heir? Paul says, bum, 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 Chani will. The Reverend Mother reminds him that, I'm sorry, but she's barren. How is that going to happen? And then he says, bum, 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 she's with child.
No. Basically, like, she goes, she's barren. Paul goes, you got a baby right now, B. You know, like.
Right. Which is crazy, right? Like, all she needed was to get away from Irulan long enough for the meds to like wear off.
Right.
And plus she's doing now the crazy Fremen fertility rituals.
Right.
Which only make her more fertile.
Right. She's a fertile myrtle right now.
Oh, yeah. Living in the desert, doing her thing. The Reverend Mother snapped, and she exposed how shocked she was hearing this news. You lie.
You lie.
That's just old witchy. You lie. Stilgar surged forward, hopefully to kill the Reverend Mother at this point, but was stopped by Paul's hand. We've known for only 2 days, but yes, she carries my child. But Irulan. Paul reminds the Reverend Mother, sure, Irulan can have the child, but only artificially. I will not sleep with her. The Reverend Mother closed her eyes, hid her face. Damnation, she thought. How could he be so careless with his genetics? Everything the Bene Gesserit taught, all the lessons of the Butlaharian jihad. Oh, I murdered that word. Butlahari? Oh, man.
Butlarian.
You got it. You say it.
Butlarian jihad. You've said it a million times.
I know. Just my tongue got all messed up. They'd forbid them to carelessly gamble like he was doing. Their goal was to create the highest aspirations of humankind, making a mind to beat all machine minds. And here he was, throwing it away.
Boo-hoo.
I feel like that was a lot in there, like just kind of the order of the Bene Gesserit, like why they got started in their quest to do what they did. And I have a feeling that if they do make a Bene Gesserit show focused on the origins of the Bene Gesserit, it will be around this topic of like, how do we beat the machines and make a human mind that can beat machines?
Right.
Just if I have any influence, which I don't, that's what I would do. All right.
Maybe they'll hire you.
Oh my God, dream job. You can contact us at readingdune@gmail.com if you're listening.
Denis?
So Paul just says, your decision. Right? Your turn, Reverend Mother. What do you want to do?
Up to you, bud.
She could only shake her head. It was more than just the precious Atreides genes that were important. It was more than just sperm and ovum. The Bene Gesserit wanted to capture the psyches of the individual, which is why they want them to do it to make the baby. They need that like psychic connection. I don't know. They want that. If she said yes, Paul would make the Bene Gesserit violate their own order, which could topple them if they were ever discovered. Because now they're like, you're breaking your own rules that you've set everything on. You can't be trusted anymore, right? Plus, he would never admit that he was the father. And this means Atreides' genes would be saved, but that would never mean the throne. So the Reverend Mother is not wanting to make this decision. So she's procrastinating. And she's looking around the room. So we're going to look around the room. Stilgar's passive and waiting. The Gola is frozen, inward wandering somewhere, just in his own head. Ali is watching the Gola with curiosity. And then there's Paul. She tries to bargain. This is your only offer? Paul's like, yep. The Reverend Mother glanced at the Gola, the Zen Sunni mentat of regrown flesh. The Gola smiled at her and said, an offer is only as good as the real thing it buys. The exchange offered here is life for life, a high order of business. The life of Chani for the life of the unborn Carino Atreides genetic line. That's the deal. Aaliyah brushed a piece of hair from her forehead and said, "And what else is hidden in this bargain?" The Reverend Mother couldn't even look at Aaliyah. The abomination. Gaius Helen Mohiam felt herself and all of her other selves in her clamoring about, watching with intent. They were alert. Every Reverend Mother she'd ever absorbed in becoming a priestess of the sisterhood. And across from her, Aaliyah, all of her Reverend Mothers were doing the exact same thing. It's like a Mexican standoff with no Mexicans.
Right. Okay, wait. Paul did the water thing too, right? Which is like where he got
his
superpowers.
Special.
Does he have Reverend Mothers in his brain as well? I was thinking about this while I was reading.
Good question. He can look at the place they can't. I don't think he has necessarily Reverend Mothers talking to him in his brain, but he did experience a moment with Hitler earlier.
Okay.
In the past. So he's getting to the point where he can see the future like he can see the past, and be in the past like he can experience it.
Yeah. Sure.
So that's the powers that he has, whereas Aaliyah and the Reverend Mothers have the combined genetic memory and all of the memories and people in there talking to her. Yeah, so that's her thing.
Cool.
But also we don't know the extent of Aaliyah's powers. And even Paul doesn't know this. He's going to question it later on.
Right.
Like he says, like, she's not seeing it. What is she not seeing? Like they don't really know. They like understand each other, but they don't have the same abilities.
Right.
But I don't know if they talked about it. They probably talked about some of it, but it's still confusing about what's going on.
Right.
So in each of the Reverend Mothers, there's generations of Reverend Mothers, each vying for the survival of their Reverend Mother. Because if they die, if Aaliyah dies, all of that past memory goes away.
Okay.
And if Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, all of that past memory goes away. So, and they're all like individual souls in them talking. So it's like they also want to keep that person alive so they can keep on existing in a weird ghost soulish presence in your head.
Spooky way, yeah.
Yeah, they're witches for a reason, man. This is weird. And then the Gola, the Telaxu salesman, pops up, wondering if they'll ever, let down the barrier of artificial insemination, right? I mean, hey, the Telaxu do it all the time. But of course, it's a slippery slope argument, because if we're going to use artificial insemination, we might as well just control the mutation and control what genes go where.
Right.
Which would make everything much faster.
Right, which is why I think it was Cytail was like, we've made a bunch of Kwisatz Haderachs. Like, we just did it. We just made them because we could.
Why do you guys wait 1,000 years? What's happening? What's wrong with you?
Right.
But yeah, it's that slippery slope argument. And that's why the Bene Gesserit have a hard line. Because if you do one, why not do another? If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want some milk. So he just goes down that line. Paul was feeling the room out. At this point, everyone felt like strangers, even his own sister. Aaliyah spoke up, saying, who knows? Who actually knows what's going to happen if we give the Bene Gesserit the Atreides genes? The Gaius Helen Mohiam whipped her head around to meet Aaliyah's gaze. For a single moment, both Reverend Mothers had a singular thought. What the hell did the Tleilaxu have to do with any of this? Which I think is weird, because, again, you have the Golva hate the salesman who's like, why not use the Tleilaxu in every conversation? Which, again, I feel is weird.
Yeah.
The Reverend Mother Mohiam broke eye contact first, remembering how the biggest pitfall of Bene Gesserit training was the vanity to believe that power could overcome any obstacle, including one's own ignorance. For Gaius Helen Mohiam and the Bene Gesserit, there was a pyramid of generations which reached an apex with Paul Atreides and his abomination sister. A wrong move here, everything would crumble, and they would need to start over. Paul finally asks, do the Bene Gesserit reject his proposal? Gaius Helen Mohiam only says, I'm thinking. She looks over at the sister, thinking, how much would he pay to spare Chani's life? Would he accept a cross with his own sister? To buy time, the Reverend Mother asks about Erewhon's opinion. Paul says, Erewhon will do anything the Bene Gesserit ask, which was true.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
The Reverend Mother asks if Paul would put Chani's child on the throne. Paul says, it is my throne. I can put there whoever I want. He glanced at Aaliyah, who was being oddly calm, eyes closed. Paul could feel the distance growing between them. The Reverend Mother had came to a decision, and that decision was that this decision could not be made just by her. She needed to consult with everybody on the council on Warwick. So her decision is to not do anything but to just ask more people what to do. Paul agrees, but says they shouldn't take too long. The Goa, the Tleilaxu salesman, asks, will Paul bargain with the Blenny Tleilax? If you bring the Bene Gesserit here, why not bring the Blenny Tleilax here?
Right.
Aaliyah's eyes popped open. She just stared at Hate. What are you doing? I've made no such decision, Paul said. What I will do is go into the desert as soon as it can be arranged. Our child will be born in Sietch. A wise decision, Stilgar says. Aaliyah could feel in every cell of her body that this was not a wise decision.
It was a dumbass decision.
This was a wrong decision. And Paul knew this. Why did he fix himself upon this path? This is like twice that Aaliyah has been like, what are you doing? This is wrong. Aaliyah asked Paul if the Blenny Tleilax had offered their services to Paul. Paul says no. And then then Paul tells Stilgar to arrange a message to be sent to Wallach. Paul turned away, sensing Aaliyah's debating. She's debating in her head if she should ask Paul more questions. Instead, she turns to the Golwa and asks, Mentat, will the Tleilaxu bid for favor with my brother? Hate only shrugged. Aaliyah's question revealed to Paul that she had not seen the alternatives here. Visions do vary from Sibyl to Sibyl. It makes sense for visions to vary from brother to sister. Paul turned to look at his sister. He knew that she would wonder what it could mean to see him crying. So now, during all of this, Paul starts crying in this decision. He's experiencing something. And he also knew that she would not know why he's crying, and she would wonder about it, which wonder for the Atreides at this point in time is now a kindness.
Right.
Because they can see everything in the future, so not knowing something is kind of like fun.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Paul glanced at the Gola, seeing only his friend, Duncan Idaho. Sorrow and compassion warred in Paul. Paul thought to himself, there are many degrees of sight and many degrees of blindness. His mind turned to a paraphrase from the Orange Catholic Bible. What senses do we lack that we cannot see another world all around us? Paul wonders about Hate's metal eyes. Did those metal eyes do more than just see? Aaliyah crossed over to her brother. She put his hand on his cheek. She put her hand on his cheek to feel the tears. That ancient Fremen gesture of awe. She could feel the sadness welling up in him. She said, She said, can you read that quote?
Yeah, we must not grieve for those dear to us before their passing.
Paul only whispers, before their passing. Tell me, little sister, what is before? Bum, bum, bum. What is before? So yeah, he's coming to the point like he feels like the past and the future are just melded together for him now.
Right, because he just sees all of it. It's just all one big present at some point.
So why do you think he's crying? Last thought.
Because it's like finally here, it's like finally happening. It's like in Doctor Strange where the Sorcerer Supreme lady like arrives at the moment of her death, but she goes and like slows down time because she's like, I always knew it was like gonna come down to this, and now here I am. You know, like
Yeah.
just that moment of like, well, I knew this was gonna happen, but now it's happening. So
Do you think, okay, what moment is happening then for Paul?
Chani's fate being sealed in one way or another. His inevitable demise. I don't know. Like there's like a bunch of things that it could be. I don't know that it's like,
It's just everything.
yeah, I don't know if it's like specifically clear. I might be missing something, but
Yeah, it doesn't specify why he's crying. Yeah, it could be the pain from the jihad he feels caused, in which he caused it. Could be Chani's death. Could be his empire will end, and all of this is
right.
for nothing.
Yeah, it's just that quote that makes me feel like it's Chani, you know?
Yeah. I feel like because he's doing everything in his power to bargain for something. When I first read it, he's crying over death of Chani is what I thought.
Right.
Yeah. Andrew Floyd says, I feel like you got it.
Me, I got it.
You got it. You're spot on the money.
Okay. Great.
There we go.
Guess we'll find out next week.
Yeah. Speaking of next week, you can help support us, patreon.com/reading Dune. Every chapter. What else? Stay spicy. That's it. We'll see you in the next chapter as we talk to Edric and Scytale and see how the conspiracy is doing, because right now Paul is just knocking the conspiracy down one at a time. Like he's got Irulan out of the way, right? Chinese with child. He just took down the Bene Gesserit by saying, "You want my sperm? You can have my sperm." So we have the guild to deal with and the Tleilaxu to deal with still. So
is that the next merch piece we're gonna do? It's a t-shirt that says, "You want my sperm? You can have my sperm."
readingdune.com right
Reading
there. Oh man. Yeah, somebody was asking for more spicy merch in the Discord. Oh, by the way, join the Discord. If you're reading Messiah and you want to read Children and you're blazing through it and you can't stop and you don't want to read with Evan because he's too slow, then that's cool. Just join the Discord and do so. All right. That's all. Oh, Thomas Wright says it's also the loss of Leto. See, there's too much you could be gosh darn crying about. All right, we're gonna end this and just say, stay spicy, my friends. We'll see you next week.